Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate your support. In today's video, I want to go over some beginner tattooing tips. I'm going to relay as much information as I can, so by the end of this video, you can walk away with information that you could immediately apply on your end. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring my bell, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. With that being said, let's get right on into this. Taking it from the top, a good tip for beginner tattoo artists is to figure out what gear you are comfortable using. A lot of people choose to use coil machines and others choose to use pen style tattoo machines. It's really going to be subjective and to each their own. I think we as the artists have to figure out prior to even beginning tattooing, kind of envision what we see ourselves using along the way. Do you want to use a coil? Do you want to use a pen style tattoo machine? How do you want your setting up and breaking down to go? So these are questions, and this is kind of the thought process that we should be asking ourselves when it comes down to picking our tattoo gear out. Figuring out what gear we are comfortable with early on is crucial. Figuring out what gear we are comfortable with is going to allow us to be more comfortable when tattooing, which could then provide us with more confidence. Sometimes confidence is everything, especially when it comes to tattooing. We have to really commit to that A to B point to apply the tattoo correctly. So therefore, being comfortable with our gear, I feel, is crucial to that comfortability, providing that confidence when we tattoo. So figure out what gear you're comfortable using and then get comfortable using that gear. I will make another in-depth video on the differences between pen style tattoo machines and coils, but for now I want to stick to the beginner tips. The next one on the list, the next tip I have for you is going to be to make sure that you get a clean stencil. So this goes from the very beginning of the stencil creating process all the way down to applying the stencil. When we're creating a stencil and thinking about it, we want to get the cleanest stencil that we possibly can. Make sure all of the lines are connecting. Make sure that we know where the shading goes. If there's shading, make sure that we mark the shading areas. Make sure that when we apply the stencil to the skin, we give it enough time to dry. When we apply stencils to human skin, I personally like to give it around 25-30 minutes. The longer we let it dry, the better it's going to be, the longer the stencil will hold up. However, I feel like it's very important from the jump to get the stencil right from there. Think about everything, make sure all the lines are connecting, make sure that when you apply the tattoo, you can make sure to plan it out each and every step of the way. So getting a clean stencil from the jump is crucial, for me at least, to a clean, smooth tattooing workflow. Another tip that I have for beginner tattoo artists is to start with round shader tattooing needles for lining as opposed to round liners. Now, I'm fully aware this may sound counterintuitive and backwards, however, there is logical reasoning behind starting with round shaders as opposed to round liners. The logic behind using round shaders first over round liners is because round shaders tend to be naturally more bolder. The needle configurations are a bit more spread apart as opposed to round liners, so that means when we are tattooing with round shaders, they tend to be a lot more forgiving with our mistakes. The smaller the needle configuration goes, the more our mistakes are going to be apparent. Now, because of round shaders and their configurations that are naturally more spread apart, we're going to get naturally bolder lines. When we're using bolder lines, they tend to be more forgiving to each and every little mistake that we make, whether it's inconsistent needle depth or wobble. Thicker lines are more forgiving towards mistakes and wobbles. That right there is why I would recommend to go with round shaders first to develop the comfortability with lining, and then start moving on to round liners and then work your way down to smaller configurations. I think it's more counterintuitive to start with smaller configurations and work our way on up. Again, the reason being because smaller configurations tend to show all of the mistakes. So starting with round shaders may be a better way to go over starting with round liners. I would recommend to stay within like the 7 round shader range up to the 11 round shader. Once we get a familiarity with pulling lines and creating lines within this configuration range, we could then begin to expand to more bigger round shaders and then smaller needle configurations. The idea is to start somewhere, create a foundation, and then build off of that. Another tip that I have for beginner tattoo artists is to moisten the skin before we tattoo it. I've seen people use Vaseline. I personally like to use ink ease to moisturize the skin before I start depositing ink into it. We don't really ever, or actually never, we never ever want to apply a tattoo with dry skin. We always want to have a very light layer of ointment on the skin before we start applying the tattoo. This right here would prevent the client from feeling more pain. On top of that, for me personally, when we apply a correct amount of ointment onto the tattoo site, we're creating less less pain for the client. We're making the tattoo site a little bit more workable. On top of that, it also helps prevent pulling as well. Not all the way, not every time, but it can definitely contribute to less pulling. So there's multiple reasons why we want to apply ointment to the tattoo site. And keep in mind, if we over apply, we can clog our needles. If we under apply, then we're not really doing much at all. So you want to find that right balance of applying just enough ointment to provide comfortability, to prevent pulling. You get the idea. So always moisten the skin before tattooing. Another tip that I have for beginner tattoo artists is to use the correct inks for the application. So for example, if we're going to be doing a tattoo that's dominantly lining, no shading, then we're going to want to use an ink that's dedicated and that's good for lining. It could be Intense Formula 23, it could be Dynamic Black, but you get the idea. We have to have the correct inks for the correct application. Let's say we're going to be doing shading, then you can make your own gray wash, or you can choose to get a pre-made gray wash, again like the Dynamic Black, which comes in 20, 40, 60, and 80. So point is, you want to use the correct ink for the applications. Another tip that I have for beginner tattoo artists is to always plan out your tattoos. If we can't plan out the tattoo and see it all the way through every single step of the way, chances of us being able to tattoo that drop tremendously. We have to be able to envision the process before we actually begin to apply the tattoo. Hence planning out the tattoo. I feel like if we can't plan it out, like if there's areas of the tattoo that we don't know how we're going to go about applying them, then the tattoo may be out of our capability range and or style range. It is very important that we are able to plan out the tattoo. If we're not, then it's probably a tattoo that we shouldn't take on. Another tip that I have for beginner tattoo artists is to always prioritize your comfort when tattooing. So I understand that we want to make the client as comfortable as we can. However, I feel like it's more important for the tattoo artist to find their comfortability points before applying the tattoo. This right here will yield the best results for the client. Keep in mind, the temporary discomfort that the client's going to go through is only temporary for a lifelong tattoo. Tattooing is permanent. There is a real sense of permanency when we apply tattoos. So therefore, I feel like prioritizing our comfort would be the best way to go, so that way we as a tattoo artist could apply the best tattoo that we possibly could apply. So prioritize your comfort while trying to compensate and make your client comfortable as well. Try to find a middle ground with both. Another tip that I have for beginner tattoo artists is to try to stay within your style range. At the very beginning, I feel like this is very crucial. This could probably make or break us. If we do a bad tattoo early on, then it tends to be more discouraging, therefore lowering our chances of continuing a tattooing career. So therefore, I feel like it's super important to learn how to stay within a style range until we've established multiple styles and mastered those techniques. By staying within a style range that we are comfortable doing, we can yield the best results while uplifting our confidence, while allowing us to practice our technical application and kind of building off of a solid foundation. Let's say if we're taking on tattoos that aren't our style and we're doing kind of like mediocre or botched tattoos, then again, this is going to be more discouraging and more disheartening on the artist, therefore lowering the chances of having an actual tattooing career. So at the very beginning, stay within the style range, stay within your comfortability, and then work your way up to different styles as you progress. Those right there are some tips that really helped me at the beginning of my tattooing journey. These are tips that you can take and immediately apply on your end to yield better results. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below and I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring my bell, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. I appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in. You have a great day.